Okay, we're 65 at paragraph 4. So now a recap. There's a master of the field, and he tries to get us to daven that we remember every word, not forget it. Remember every letter, right? If you can make one of the whole tefillah, then you get to the tachlis. Tachlis is the end result. It's all good. It's all by Hashem, right? Hine, Siv Dalet. Be'emes, b'shas bitul. At the time, the Rebbe says, how could a person do this when he nullifies himself before Hashem? That when there's great pain, a person closes his eyes as if he's looking to the tachlis. There it's all good. So even the suffering is good. So you have to nullify yourself. So the Rebbe says now, V'hine be'emes b'shas bitul, at the time when a person nullifies himself, shenisbatel el tachlis, that he puts himself over for the tachlis, shu kulei tov kulei echad, it's all good, it's all one. Azai be'emes nisbatlen ha'yisurim kenal. Then the suffering goes away, so to speak. Why? Because he's now attached to only good. Ach, is tomid kavua b'vchinas habitul, but it's impossible for a person to always be attached in the state of self-nullification. Ki im kein yetze migeda anushi. He'll just stop being a human being. He'll go beyond that. And therefore, the nullification that a person undergoes has to be what's called rotzoy v'shoiv, running and returning. That's what the phrase means. The phrase is used in the vision of the chariot of Yecheskel, where it says the chayos, the angels, were running and returning. And it's an important teaching in Yiddishkeit to know running and returning. That means we have to run to Hashem, but we have to know when to return. We can't just do only spirituality. There is a physical element in the way we live. When the intellect returns, I self-nullified myself. I turn myself over completely beyond this world. At the same time, I have to come back to reality. Shehikli aseichel, azai efshar lahamoichin shehem hakelim, the kabel is a chayla shebechinas bitul, ki bechinas ein soif. The mind, which is a vessel, a receptive vessel, that it will take certain things in, it can receive, it can understand, right? It cannot give itself over completely to Hashem, because Hashem is infinite. I'm just ascending above anything normal, anything human. Shu b'chinas ha'tachlis, shu kuli echad kuli tov, which is all one. Because of that, when the person returns from self-nullification, he feels the suffering. Because the main vessel which feels suffering and pain is really the mind. From the mind goes out tzinoris, those are pipes or channels. That was the nervous system. It goes to all the organs. And that's how the mind the intellect recognizes and feels the pain that goes throughout the body. So a person does feel pain. He tries to nullify himself to Hashem to get a hold of the tachlis, and yet what comes out is that he can't grasp it completely because he has to come back to reality. V'da, and no, Rebbeinu adds another level to this, another dimension. She'achar kach, she'choyzer me'abitel el hakelim, when a person returns from self-nullification and he's in reality, I know amoichin, azay mizgaben ha'yisurim b'yosef mima she'olim b'koidim. A person could sometimes do away with the pain, but when he comes back to the pain, he feels it even more than he felt it before. כדרך שני אנושים שמסעבקים ונלחמים ומסקבים זה כנגד זה, like two people who are fighting one against the other, שאחד רואה שחברו מסקבו עליו, when one sees that the other one is getting stronger, he's overpowering him, אזי הוא מסחזק מיועד ומסקבו ביוסף. Then he has his adrenaline push, and he starts going out against the other guy. Similarly, when the Balidinim, means the angels that are set to give him suffering, he wants to rise above the suffering, and he wants to nullify them by nullifying himself to the Tachlis. So then the pain increases more. Then you have much more pain than you had before. Because the person wants to run away from the suffering, and he puts himself into the self-nullification, that's why they strengthen themselves against him, and he feels more pain. Now this is,
So what's he supposed to do? He feels the pain, he goes into self-nullification, but that increases the pain.
He comes back to reality.
Through that?
Then he feels the pain.
Okay.
And he feels the pain even more than what he felt before.
But he's got to.
Right? He's got to.
He's got to.
But it's fact. A person could feel a little relaxation in this guy goes post-operative.
Yeah.
Right? A person feels, and he feels it a little bit better for a while, and then all of a sudden, bang! Like he's shot. So then Rabbeinu Zal says, but no. אחר כך מקלן היסודים ומסנחמים עליהם על ידי ישחשס התורה, שזוכן על ידי היסודים. What happens is that when a person nullifies himself and he goes into the tachlis, he's ascending up to the source of where Torah is, where Hashem is. Hashem is the Torah, right? Then he comes back, and then the let's say the attribute of judgment fights against him to make him feel more pain. But then, because he was up there with Hashem for those few moments, at that moment, then he gets a lightening, a lightening, a relief from the pain. Through the suffering, the person forced himself into a nullification. And afterwards, when he came back, even though he came back from the nullification, from the imprint that's left from the beetle, through that comes about a renewal of V'hisik shekola yisurim em toivus gedolos miyoid, that through the nullification that a person went from the Yisurim, he realizes that it's very good, because Hashem is giving it to him either for forgiveness of sin or to remind him of sin, of tshuva. This brings him joy, because he knows that whatever is happening for the good. Joy is the vessel with which to receive a renewal of Torah. They took it back. And they took, what happened is when the Jews received the Torah at Sinai, there were 1,200,000 angels that came down and placed crowns upon the heads of every Jew, 600,000. And one said, Naaseh, we will do, and one said, Nishma, we will hear. Right? Naaseh v'nishma. When the Jews committed the golden calf, the angels took back the crown, right? But they will give it back in the future, as it says, Simchas Olam al Rosham. There's a joy, an eternal joy that will be upon their heads. That refers to the crowns, right? So now, we nimsa, the Rebbe says, Simchu b'chinas nasa v'nishma. Joy is we will do and we will hear. Shu b'chinas kabbalah satorah. So that when a person has joy, it's as if he's receiving the Torah from new. V'ayidei is chadshus haTorah, and through the renewal of Torah, shezochin ayidei harashim shel habitul kanal, that a person merits through ascending to the nullification, to the tachlis, and then he comes back, that cools off the pain. Through this, you cool off the thirst of the soul. The soul is thirsty. Why? Because it thirsts for Hashem. Feeling pain is a sign that the soul is thirsty. Why is that? Because a person gets thirsty because of salt. You eat salt, you feel thirst. Salt represents suffering. The Gemara equates, the Gemara in Brachos, it equates salt with suffering. Why? Because it says there's a bris melech oilam, there's a bris for that, and there's a bris that's mentioned by suffering. So that bris, a covenant is made for salt, a covenant was made for suffering. So suffering is conceptually salt. Salt brings thirst. Ki ha-nefesh hu bas ha-seichel. The nefesh, the soul of a person, represents his intellect. Ki hika gidel ha-nefesh hu ha-idei ha-seichel. The way to make your soul grow means the way to make ourselves grow is through seichel. Shemegadla u'masakla. Person increases his intellect and he rectifies it. U'chemoshe kosav gam b'lo da'as nefesh lo toiv. Without knowledge, the soul is not good, because the soul is increased and grows when it has Yisurim. And when the intellect is correct, then the person bears fruit, because he knows what to do, he knows how to conduct himself. Avol kshenifka maseicha, but if the intellect is blemished, azayu bechinas eretz pri limlecha, that the fruits go for salt. That means if the soul is not growing, it's stagnating, that's suffering. The soul stagnating is suffering. When a person has an arousal for Torah, renewal for Torah, through this he cools off the suffering and he quenches his thirst. Whoever is thirsty should go to water. The Gemara says the water is the Torah. So you want to quench your thirst, you want to get rid of your suffering, run to the Torah. Fortunate is the person that Hashem makes him suffer and he learns from his Torah. Why is that? Through Yisurim, when Hashem makes the guy suffer, so that's because he has the Yisurim, he has the renewal of Torah. And the sign that he accepted his suffering as is fit, as is proper, that means he accepts it as a gift of Hashem. When after the suffering, he feels a renewal for Torah. Because that is the sign that he merited to nullify himself to the Tachlis. And through that, he merits to a renewal of Torah, as it says above. Okay.
No pain, no gain.
No pain, no gain, yeah. But what the gain has to be, the person has to recognize that it's all from Hashem.
Yeah.
It's all hashkocha. It's all like the pain that we had this morning, and a couple of people killed this morning.
4 or 5.
Right? After the time of the ceasefire. Right?
Of course.
Okay. Yabala Soda Hanal. So now when a person comes back and he has the renewal of Torah, and therefore a lessening of the suffering, the Habala Soda Hanal, when the master of the field, when his eyes are shining, that means when the Jews do good mitzvahs, he can see if everyone is close to the Tachlis. And when he sees a person who's distant from the Tachlis, he sees that his prayer is not 100% right. He can't make one from the whole Torah. In other words, when he's by the end of the letter of the word, he forgets the first letters of the word. And he can't include his tefillah in one. The Bala Soda Mistakabay Meviela Tachlis, the Bala Soda could see that he's coming to the Tachlis. Bala Soda Mistakabay Meviela Tachlis, and the master of the field brings him to the Tachlis, where in the middle of Sif Dalid, right, in the 65, Samachay, you see the small letters, Shabbos, right before that.
Okay.
Look at that. So we're at the point where a person does not make one from his davening. V'zeh. Now, the Rebbe will explain something here. It's a Gemara in Megillah, Gemara in Shabbos. V'zeh b'chinas mantzipach tzoifim omru. Mantzipach, a mem, nun, tzadik, pei, and chof. Right? Those are the 5 final letters in the Hebrew alphabet. Right? Those are the 5 final letters. Mem has a mem and a mem sofit. Right? And so on. What does it mean that these 5 letters were said by the prophets? Umasik sham she'atzoifim tiknu hay tchilas teva, hay b'soif teva. The tzoifim, the prophets, they said, they established which letter, there's 2 mems, which one is in the middle of the alphabet, and which one is in the middle of a word, and which one is the final letter mem. Which one is the middle nun, which was the last one, right? So the Gemara says like this, they established mantzpach, these 5 letters. So now the Gemara asks, it's from Sinai. What do you mean it's from the prophets? The Gemara answers, they established which ones are in the middle of the word and which ones are at the end of the word. In our lesson, Rabbi Nachman spoke about having tefillah, remembering the first letter of the tefillah and remembering the last letter. Remember, we had that in paragraph base. So now the Rebbe says like this, Tzoifim, the prophets, Ebechin is Habala Soda. Tzoifim means he looks, he can see. That's the master of the field. When he can see, that means people are doing good deeds. Then he can see those who are close to the tachlis, which means where everything is one. That when they're at the end of davening, they really remember, they still remember the beginning of the davening. And those who are distant from that, and they represent those who are at the end of davening, when they're at the end of the davening, that's where they really are. In other words, there are people who completely forget that they davened. They completely forgot that I said this lesson. I said Psukkah de Zimra. Did I say that today? Right? Did I say the davening? Did I say the Shemona Esrei? There are people who forget that. So the Rebbe says that the Bala Soda, the master of the field, tries to bring the person to that. And the Tzoifim, that means the Bala Soda, rectifies those people and bring them closer to the Tachlis, which is one, where everything is one. So the Gemara says there that they had these letters. What do you mean that they established the V'im, established which is the beginning of the letter or which is the end, the final letter? He says it's also from Sinai. He says people forgot it, and they're the ones who re-established it. What does it mean that? So the Rebbe says in our lesson, because they're distant from the Tachlis, and they forget that everything is one big unity, they forgot the beginning. And they don't include everything in one. In other words, when I finished my Esrei, I forgot completely that I started it, right? So the tzaddikim, the Bala Tefillah, chozru v'yostem v'tiknu oisam, the Bala Tefillah goes back and establishes the person that he should be closer to Tefillah, sheyeh kulei echad kanal, that it should be one. What's the purpose of the one? Purpose of the one is the unity that we all recognize that everything is from Hashem and everything is good. Like we could fool ourselves and say there's a ceasefire now. You heard that?
Mm-hmm.
You heard?
We heard?
Ceasefire, right? You trust the Iranians?
Oh, no.
I trust.
Right? So, I mean, how can anyone accept that? Right? That means we're far from the Tachlis. We don't recognize the unity of Hashem, that this is all for the good, and it's going to be good, and we don't recognize it. We can't recognize it.
This is what Hashem wants.
Huh?
This is what Hashem wants.
This is what Hashem wants because that's what's happening.
Right.
Right? And they had a ceasefire. It starts at 7 o'clock. At 7:15, you had all the rockets. They killed 3 people in Beersheba and whatnot. Right?
Well, I think it was a little before, 6:15.
No, it was
It
7:15.
was after 7?
Yeah. They had a warning at 6, and then they had another warning at 7. 7:15. That's what.
So
So it shows you how you can trust them, right?
So they
But
shot,
what
it,
then?
they shot it before 7, I guess they say.
They shout, yeah, right. Oh, they're such tzaddikim.
But the Israelis did also. Israelis killed nine more of the people that they were targeting.
Not enough.
Not enough, for sure.
You put another 6 zeros after that 9, I'll accept it,
Right.
right?
But as the Rav said, that's what Hashem wanted.
That's what Hashem. That's the thing. That's the tachlis. The Rebbe says all the suffering, right, is that a person should do tshuva or should be reminded to do tshuva. That's one. That's echad. That's the tachlis, right? We haven't yet gotten there, and that's our problem. Okay. Are there any questions on this? I'm sure.
So in general, when we have, sometimes we have like the liberals, the leftists, the woke, when they're on the rise, do we also need to say this is what Hashem wants?
Yeah.
Be okay with it?
Well, be okay with it? Certainly not. But this is what Hashem wants. Let's put it this way. When a person does a mitzvah, he creates a defending angel. Right? When a person does an avera, he creates a prosecuting angel. Right? Where are these angels? Where are they? Right? The answer is they come down to this world and they attach themselves to those who keep on doing sins. Those are the leftists and the liberals, the woke. That's where it happens. I just recalled something from a Rosh Yeshiva. We say in Avinu Malkeinu, Hofer Atzas Avenu, right? Stoim Piot Mastinenu Makatrigenu. Close the mouths of those who prosecute us, prosecuting angels. The left, woke, all these, this Greta Thunberg, whatever, all the garbage of the world. He said, don't worry about what goes on down here. What happens is that when everything goes on before heaven, before Hashem, there are defending angels and there are prosecuting angels. If the people down here prosecute, it's because the prosecuting angels on high are winning, right? And that's why you have all these voices of the left and the liberals and all that stuff that destroys Am Yisrael. It destroys. You see, they've never come out with something that will support Hashem. They all come out against Hashem. So that's the liberals and the left. May Hashem spare us. Right? Okay.
And when the other side happens, like more recent events, then we're winning. Then the good angel.
When the good angel, yeah. So it was very good that they bombed Iran.
Yeah.
It was very good. The good angels were winning then, right? That the United States came in and bombed those other places. Good angels came in, right? Except that Yechezkel, the prophet, when he saw the chariot, he saw 3 totally evil klipos, a storm wind, cloud, a very deep cloud, and a fire. And then there was one klipa that's called Noga. Noga is half good and half bad. So, Trump went and he was a good Noga. He bombed the Iranian facilities. I call him now a bad Noga. What kind of ceasefire? Right? But Noga is half good, half bad. Whatever the case is. That's the world we live in. There's always prosecutors. All the angels, all the nations are all prosecuting us. They're all going against us. And our job is to do tshuva, just to recognize Hashem, make sure that He is king over the entire world, and not these other guys. All right? Okay. Zeh Pedish. It's the very bottom of the page. Zeh Pedish. The Rebbe opened up the chapter, this lesson, with the story of Boaz and Rus. Boaz said to Rus, right, time comes to eat, go with my men and take food from there, and you should look to my field and take what you need from there. V'zeh peidish v'yom Boaz el Rus, Boaz hu ha-seichel. Boaz represents the intellect. K'moshe Kosov, ha-chochma to'oz l'chochom. Wisdom will strengthen the wise man. Right? So Boaz, he has the oz, he gets the wisdom. Rus, Boaz, the seichel, said to Rus, what's Rus? He represents a nefesh. Shemimene yotze adibo shel tfilos v'ashidos v'shishbochos. That from the speech comes out from the soul. K'mo shomer Rabbeinu Zal loma nikmo shorod Rus shemimene yotze David sherivel ha'kodesh baruch hu b'shivos v'shishbochos. She was called Rus. Why? From the word riva, satiate. Right? What happened? She was called Rus because on the future, her descendant would be David HaMelech, and he satiated Hashem with many praises. So Rus, the word satiate, represents the speech. The speech comes from the soul. As we said earlier, Nafshi yotzo b'dabroi. My soul goes out with his words. Haloi shomat biti. Boaz said to Rus, you heard my daughter. Ki ha-nefesh hu bas ha-seichel kanal. The nefesh, he called her my daughter. Boaz called Rus my daughter. Why? Rus is the speech. Speech is called the daughter of the nefesh, of the soul. Why? Because it emanates from the soul. You have a soul, this is what you think, this is what you say. Right? You heard my daughter. What do you mean you heard? The Gemara says about davening in Kriya Shema that your ears should hear what you are taking, what's emanating from your mouth. Lend your ear, ushma ba'kosos hadiba v'tachnunov, and listen to the words that you were saying. That the speech prays and begs the person who is saying the words of prayer not to forget me. Right? We had that last week. Do not go to gather your needs from a different field. All the letters and the words that a person says are very, very precious. That we gather in the upper worlds. Every word of davening, the Chazal say that every word of davening is never shunned. Every word that a person davens to Hashem, we may not see the results of that tefillah, but every word of tefillah is accepted. Pi'atiba mevakesh ve'anefra telebito l'kodukuta macher kenal. The words beg the soul, the person, don't leave me behind. You can't be satiated with just one letter, even though it's a beautiful, a most incredible flower. You still can't be said. You have to be able to take more. Even when you go to a different word, don't leave the first word alone, the first letter. And a person could make one from the entire davening. He starts off Baruch, he remembers the Beis, the Reish, the Chof, and he goes all the way to the end of davening. He keeps it all together. Your eyes are in the field that you're harvesting. When you look for the tachlis. How do we know it's the tachlis, the ktsarun, that is harvest? Because the harvesting is the ultimate goal of plowing and sowing the field. Aloy tzivisi etana odem levilti ogech zebechinas timas ha'inayim shetzorach l'sogrom u'lechaber ha'ro'ois l'chavne el ha'tachlis kanal. This represents the Na'orim. Na'orim are the men, the workers, right? The Rebbe explains here that the Na'orim are the servants of the mind. The eyes are the servants of the mind. What you have in mind to look at, that's what your eyes will see. What your eyes see and send a message back to your mind is, do you want to accept it that way, or do you want to reject what you're seeing? But eyes are the servants of the mind, such as the ears, the nose, the mouth, everything, the arm, everything is servant, but these are the eyes. Your eyes are upon the field that you're harvesting. This is what it means that a person closes his eyes when he's in great pain. Person has to learn to focus on the ultimate goal. Person, if he starts looking at all the enticements of this world, will never ever merit to see the tachlis, because he's always distracted. Tzivisi, I commanded. What does it mean, commanded? Loshen tzavta v'yischabris. Tzivisi shares the same root as the word tzevet, which means a unified group, right? It means joining together. What does that mean? You have to be able to join your eyes to look upon the tachlis. You have to be able to focus them. The eyes are called servants because they are the servants of the intellect. Because sight is a servant of the intellect. The person should have the sight focus so that he's able to correlate with the suffering that he has. Because when sight becomes disengaged from the tachlis, Person does not concentrate to close his eyes from the enticements of this world. That means the person's soul is blemished because he goes after the enticements. And you have to be able to join and keep together the servants, your sight, not to look from the side to be disengaged from the tachlis. In order not to blemish the soul. Then a person could look and focus upon the tachlis. When a person does look at the tachlis, the spatlan kolay yisurim canal, then his suffering goes away. It's nullified. Why? Because the person is now attached to Hashem, which is the tachlis, which is all good. But what happens? This is what we had this morning before you came in. When a person returns from the nullification, then the suffering is lost. Then the person gets thirsty. In other words, he feels the suffering again. When you get thirsty, you'll go to the kelim, to the vessels, and drink. If a person becomes thirsty, what does that mean? Person's soul is meant to serve Hashem. If he serves Hashem, he's satiated. Right? Reb Nosson writes that when a person serves the body always wants more, and the soul is lacking. If a person sates the soul, so then the body is also replenished and sated. Right? It's an amazing thing. Right? So that we have to learn to quell the thirst of the soul. And why is that? By doing good mitzvahs. You will drink from what the servants draw. The eyes, which are the servants of the mind, they draw a renewal of Torah. Because the tachlis is one, Hashem and the Torah is one, and therefore he gets a renewal of Torah. A renewal of Torah, by the way, doesn't mean I have to have new ideas and new insights in Torah. It means I have a new approach to Torah too. That's also called the renewal of Torah. And through that, through the person gets a renewal of Torah, then he's able to renew his soul and he can nullify the suffering. And this represents the Garden of Eden, Bechinas Moshe v'Aaron, which represents Moshe and Aharon. They represent the Garden of Eden. Gan hu Bechinas HaNefesh, garden, we had the Garden of the Souls. Gan is the Nefesh, Bechinas v'Hoisa Nafsham, Kegan Rova. So we see in the Pasuk that the Nefesh is like a garden. And that's where you have to kind of collect all the different letters of the davening. Eden hu bechinas hatachlis, ki Eden ayin leirosa bechinas bitul kanal. Eden, the Gemara says like this: there's Gan, Eden, Garden of Eden, right? The Gemara says that Gan is 1/60th of Eden. Eden is much higher or much greater than the Gan. Right? So the nefesh, right, wants to go into the tachlis. It wants to join. The garden of the souls, the garden wants to join with the Eden, and that's why it's called Gan Eden. The Nefesh wants to go to the Tachlis. Okay? What time is it?
It's 25 after.
Let's finish the lesson. It's also the Kodesh Baruch Hu Lasses B'chol Tzadikim Niyas Lovoi. Hashem is going to make a dance, a circle for the tzaddikim in the future. And everyone will point with his finger and say, "This is Hashem." With his finger, he'll be able to point to Hashem. So now, and the say, Hashem, Kivinu Loi, this is Hashem who we wanted. We'll be very happy with his salvation. Halavai, we should be zocher to see it. All right, mochel. What does it mean, mochel? A circle. Sebechinas hasimcha. It's joy. Hainu klila kabbalas Torah canal. That's the vessel with which, when we're joyous, we could receive the Torah. All this is through the beetle. Shai is when a person nullifies himself. Because a person merits to feel some kind of enlightenment from the time that he nullified himself to Hashem. The Torah comes through the vessels, which is my joy. He points with his finger. Mara is also a vision, right? It's a vision that he will be able to see. He'll be able to see it because he nullified himself to the Tachlis. Right? He shows the vision with his finger. The Torah is called the etzba, the finger. So that when you have the etzba, the finger of Hashem, right, the finger which is the Torah, when you have the Torah, when you nullify yourself, you go up to the beetle, you go up to the tachlis, and from there you come back with some kind of illumination that Hashem is real, Hashem exists, and we will be able to partake of Him. So that means we will point with our finger, we'll be able to see Hashem.
Yeah.
We can't do that yet.
Can't do it yet. Everyone according to his level. Everyone according to his level. All right.